Albeit ending their goal drought, their first in 2 months in the Premier League this evening. But still, that is a sorry state of affairs. How would you sum up Chelsea's season, Thierry?
You know what? It's been a roller coaster, to say the least. With coaches coming, players coming and going. But it's been the story of Chelsea for a very long time now. And I mean, to be in this type of situation, I never thought I would have said that about the Chelsea that I know that we played against. Being in this type of situation, losing 6 games in a row and only scoring 1 goal at the dying end of a game. But like Jamie said, at one point, you need to, what's the new identity? What's the new philosophy of Chelsea Football Club right now? I think at one point you need to keep some type of a core to be able to build around and see where you're going. And at one point you need to get a manager that's going to need to have time to implement what he's about. Again, I keep on mentioning Mikel Arteta. It took Mikel Arteta a little while to put things together at Arsenal, but we all know also that Chelsea go about their manager and the way they do and keep their manager a different way. But I think it's time to give a manager time to be able to work at what this team is needed.
That's one of the problems. Thierry's right. I think they had the manager in Maresca. I was really impressed with the work Maresca did. And then there's obviously a clash of personalities. And at that football club, there's no one more powerful than the sporting directors, and they're letting that be known. But once you get a manager who starts winning trophies, understandably, his ego, he wants a little bit more power. That's normal. That's what top managers get when they get more successful. So they're going to have to deal with that in the future if they do get a top manager or someone who's successful, because they lost out on Maresca.
But with the owner, Jamie, though, Begdad Eghbali, and the sporting directors, if they won the FA Cup, would they say this has still been a successful season?
No chance. Absolutely no chance, no. I mean, where are they? 19th? I mean, they've been 10th.
It's about winning trophies, isn't it?
Yes and no. For that type of expenditure, you should be challenging for the league, and they should be going close, or certainly latter stages of the Champions League. We're talking about a team who've won the Champions League, I think, twice in the last sort of 15 years or 20 years or something. So they're no minnows. They're a big club in European football. But I'm seen as this guy, certainly by Chelsea fans, as this guy who doesn't like Chelsea. And I said on this show a few years ago, players have got to stop signing for Chelsea. What I meant by that, and I still stand by it, it wasn't about the individual player as if, like, I've got something against Chelsea. My point being is, if you're continually buying and selling players, you can never create a connection as a team. You've got to go through things together. They buy 2 wingers every year. So the 2 they buy the year before, how do they feel? You can't go straight into a club and be amazing straight away. You have to build something. You have to grow as a group with a manager, with players. Of course, every club buys and sells players at the end of the season. But this is just a continual conveyor belt. That was the point I was making at the time. If I was a young player, why would I sign for Chelsea? Because they'd give me 12 months. And if I wasn't amazing, they'd just go and buy someone else. So I have no feel for the club. So that's where that comment comes from. It's not against Chelsea. I just look at it and think, how can that work? How can that build? How can you build a connection between supporters and players and staff? It's not there.
So do they need to change their model a little bit, Thierry, do you think? Do you suspect that maybe there's a little bit too much power invested in the decision makers rather than in the person who's in charge of the football team, whether that's a head coach or a manager?
Jamie had a great point there, and I'm going to mention Mikel Arteta again. Like, at one point you could see how Mikel Arteta was getting more powerful at the club because he looks like he was going places. They gave him the money that he needed, they gave him the team that he needed, and look at what's happening right now. But I do believe whatever the module is, the success you want to have, or the identity and philosophy you're going to have, they have people in place in order to think about that and do that. I'm just saying, at one point, can you let the manager work? Because if not, it's going to be very difficult. If every time you change the manager, you change the style and the shape of your team, how are you going to go anywhere? So I think for me that's vital in any club, by the way. It's not only a Chelsea thing.
Yeah, so as a relatively young coach yourself, would you look at that club and would there be red flags in terms of if you, for example, went in there, or someone of your stature went in there, about how much control you would actually have?
It's not so much about the control, it's about the time. And then after, control might come because you might maybe deserve it or not. But it's not, like I said, it's not a Chelsea thing. If you're a coach right now, and obviously if Chelsea comes for you and you are the type of manager that can handle it, you're going to go. But then how long? How long are you going to be able to change stuff? you can see that stuff needs to be changed and happen in that football club. But time is key, and at time as a coach, you don't have the time that you need to be able to change what needs to be changed. I go back, it took Klopp a little while to make that team successful at Liverpool. Mikel Arteta, look at how long it took Pep Guardiola this year, the great Pep Guardiola, to find the right balance in order for Man City to be successful. Again, I mentioned it at the top of the show, he had to go and get Gay and Semenyo and make Ryan Cherky understand what he needs to do, so it's not always easy.
But did any of those people, and we're going to throw some names into the mix in a minute, did any of those people that you've mentioned talk against their employers publicly, which is with the accusation against Enzo Maresca, which is why Chelsea had to make the change?
Do
you not have to play by the rules if you do get the opportunity, Thierry?
Well, I've seen so many coaches do that, and sometimes when they do it, you're like, uh-oh, it might be the end if he does that. But I think that sometimes also why managers are not allowed to express themselves. And I know if you do, you open yourself to an issue. Look at the coach of Crystal Palace. He's been talking about, okay, you asked me to stay, and then you sell my best players, and then we don't really invest. But why a manager is not allowed to express himself? We always sit here and we look at a manager, and you're like, oh, we wish he was a bit more honest. We want to know what's happening. And as soon as you're honest, you have to take your car and leave the car park.
Let's throw some names into the mix then, and maybe come up with some contenders that Chelsea may or may not be looking at right now. Oh, that's an interesting one at the top of the list.
What is Cesc Fabregas doing there?
Very popular ex-Chelsea player, doing very well in management, so I'm told, with Como.
Very well
Felipe
indeed.
Luis, who was linked previously with the Chelsea job. Xabi Alonso out of work. Julian Nagelsmann has been on everybody's lips this summer, leading Germany into the World Cup. Oliver Glasner will be leaving Palace. Andoni Iraola will be leaving Bournemouth. And Marco Silva may well be leaving Fulham. His contract expires. Coventry fans will wince at Frank Lampard's name on that list, and a couple of former favourites there as well. Jamie, where do you think they should be looking?
Well, I think you'd probably rule out the bottom three. They've all managed Chelsea before. So I don't really see that. I don't see Glasner because of the back three. I think we've had this conversation before about other sort of top clubs, so I think that wouldn't happen. I don't see Xabi Alonso there with his link as a Liverpool player and Chelsea being sort of big rivals at the time. I might be wrong on that, but I think if he was come to the Premier League, it probably would be Liverpool at some stage. Fabregas does look right now one of the new hot things in football, doing
Leave
fantastic. I will. Felipe Luis is done really well. I've got that right?
Yeah,
Luis,
you're with Flamengo.
But he obviously had a spell at Chelsea as a player. You know what I think would be really interesting? And I think if it's as a Chelsea supporter, they really dislike their own club right now, I could imagine, in terms of their ownership and the players. You watch a team like get beat 6 times, not score a goal. There's obviously something lacking. There's quality there. There's no doubt.
At Wembley a couple of weeks ago
Against Leeds.
Yeah.
Oh, they had an all right first half in the middle of losing 6 on the bounce. We're talking Chelsea, by the way. This is a team who used to win in Premier Leagues and going far in Champions League. But my point being is, when you see someone like Iraola, I don't think you could ever fall out of love with his team if you were a supporter. You understand what I mean? They always run. There's always that running element. They will lose games. They will maybe pick up injuries because of the style of play. And I probably would like to see him in a bigger job and how he adapts. Be a lot more difficult with more games, and probably would be a little bit more injuries. Probably Jurgen Klopp like at Liverpool, where Liverpool picked up injuries. But I almost feel like Chelsea supporters need to fall back in love with the club again. Right now, I don't think there's any real feeling. I think there's a real dislike for the people running the club, but also people playing for the club as well.
We had a discussion about Iraola, and I think it was the Brighton Bournemouth game that we did that night, I think on the Monday Night Football. And I said that they started the season well, remember? And then went on a long run of not winning. And obviously we all know the run that they're on now. Do you think at a big club they will accept that run at the beginning of season? Well, after that great start that he had, that he went on the run of not winning for a very long time. That's when he becomes tricky at a big club. At Bournemouth, for example, for Iraola, nobody said anything. Then he went back to prove that what he is a great coach.
But would he? I agree with you. You go on a long run at a big club, you've got a problem, but probably he would argue, or people would argue, well, would he have better players at a bigger club?
Yeah.
So you're not on that run as long.
What if you saw the style was taking shape? The patterns were there.
I'm just saying that at one point, again, we're going to go back to the same thing, but, you need to be patient. Things are not always going to work straight away. You might be on the run of not winning for 4 or 5, and then you need to stick to the manager and see what he can do on the long run. And then now we all know what Iraola did, and I think he's an outstanding coach. I'm just saying that sometimes in a lesser club, when you go on the bad run, is less highlighted. Though you work a tiny bit on the less pressure,
and
you
so,
won't have the same player.
Yeah,
Okay.
so a lot of players sold and never said a word.
What was that?
Publicly anyway, Bournemouth and Andoni Iraola.
Yeah, you just got on with it. So you think the
Yes.
Chelsea hierarchy would like that?
Might that be the right thing?
I mean, listen, I think we're not far away from the next thing that would have to change. Is not years ago you'd say sack the board.